Chapter 14. Clean and Unclean Animals. You are the children of Yahweh your God. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For you are a holy people to Yahweh your God, and Yahweh has chosen you to be a people for his own possession, above all peoples who are on the face of the earth. You shall not eat any abominable thing. These are the animals which you may eat: the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the hart, and the gazelle, and the roebuck, and the wild goat, and the ibex, and the antelope, and the chamois. Every animal that parts the hoof, and has the hoof cloven in two, and chews the cud. Among the animals that may you eat. Nevertheless, these you shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of those who have the hoof cloven, the camel, and the hare, and the rabbit, because they chew the cud, but don't part the hoof. They are unclean to you. The pig, because it has a split hoof, but doesn't chew the cud, is unclean to you. Of their flesh you shall not eat, and their carcasses you shall not touch. These you may eat of all that are in the waters. Whatever has fins and scales may you eat, and whatever doesn't have fins and scales you shall not eat. It is unclean to you. Of all clean birds you may eat, but these are they of which you shall not eat: the eagle, and the vulture, and the osprey, and the red kite, and the falcon, and the kite after its kind, and every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the owl, and the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, the little owl, and the great owl, and the horned owl, and the pelican, and the vulture, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. All winged creeping things are unclean to you. They shall not be eaten. Of all clean birds you may eat. You shall not eat of anything that dies of itself. You may give it to the foreigner living among you who is within your gates, that he may eat it. Or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you are a holy people to Yahweh your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Giving tithes. You shall surely tithe all the increase of your seed, that which comes forth from the field year by year. You shall eat before Yahweh your God, in the place which he shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there, the tithe of your grain, of your new wine, and of your oil, and the firstborn of your herd, and of your flock, that you may learn to fear Yahweh your God always. If the way is too long for you, so that you are not able to carry it because the place is too far from you, which Yahweh your God shall choose to set his name there, when Yahweh your God shall bless you, then you shall turn it into money, and bind up the money in your hand, and shall go to the place which Yahweh your God shall choose. And you shall bestow the money for whatever your soul desires, for cattle, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatever your soul asks of you, and you shall eat there before Yahweh your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your household. The Levite who is within your gates, you shall not forsake him, for he has no portion nor inheritance with you. At the end of every 3 years you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase in the same year, and shall lay it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the foreigner living among you, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahweh your God may bless you in all the work of your hand, which you do. Chapter 15. The 7th year. At the end of every 7 years, you shall make a release. This is the way of the release. Every creditor shall release that which he has lent to his neighbor. He shall not exact it of his neighbor and his brother, because Yahweh's release has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may exact it, but whatever of yours is with your brother, your hand shall release. However, there shall be no poor with you, for Yahweh will surely bless you in the land which Yahweh your God gives you for an inheritance to possess it. If only you diligently listen to the voice of Yahweh your God, to observe to do all this commandment which I command you this day. For Yahweh your God will bless you, as he promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And you shall rule over many nations, but they shall not rule over you. Generosity in lending and giving. If a poor man, one of your brothers, is with you within any of your gates in your land, which Yahweh your God gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall surely open your hand to him, and shall surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wants. Beware that there not be a base thought in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cry to Yahweh against you, and it be sin to you. You shall surely give him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give to him, because that for this thing Yahweh your God will bless you in all your work, and in all that you put your hand to. For the poor will never cease out of the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall surely open your hand to your brother, to your needy, and to your poor in your land. Release of Hebrew servants. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. When you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, and out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress. As Yahweh your God has blessed you, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a bondservant in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. It shall be, if he tells you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your house, because he is well with you, then you shall take an awl, and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Also to your female servant you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard to you when you let him go free from you. For to the double of the hire of a hireling has he served you 6 years, and Yahweh your God will bless you in all that you do. Firstborn animals. All the firstborn males that are born of your herd and of your flock you shall sanctify to Yahweh your God. You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You shall eat it before Yahweh your God, year by year, in the place which Yahweh shall choose, you and your household. If it have any blemish, as if it be lame or blind, any ill blemish whatever, You shall not sacrifice it to Yahweh your God. You shall eat it within your gates. The unclean and the clean shall eat it alike, as the gazelle and the hart. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground as water. Chapter 16. The Feast of the Passover. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to Yahweh your God. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your God brought you forth out of Egypt by night. You shall sacrifice the Passover to Yahweh your God, of the flock and the herd, in the place which Yahweh shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. You shall eat unleavened bread with it 7 days, even the bread of affliction. For you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. No yeast shall be seen with you in all your borders 7 days. Neither shall any of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day at evening remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which Yahweh your God gives you, but at the place which Yahweh your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell in. There you shall sacrifice the Passover at evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you came forth out of Egypt. You shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh your God shall choose, and you shall turn in the morning and go to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh your God. You shall do no work therein. The Feast of Weeks. You shall count for yourselves 7 weeks. From the time you begin to put the sickle to the standing grain, you shall begin to number 7 weeks. You shall keep the Feast of Weeks to Yahweh your God, with a tribute of a freewill offering of your hand, which you shall give, according as Yahweh your God blesses you. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your God, you and your son, and your daughter, and your male servant, and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates, and the foreigner, and the fatherless, and the widow, who are in the midst of you, in the place which Yahweh your God shall choose, to cause his name to dwell there. You shall remember that you were a bondservant in Egypt, and you shall observe and do these statutes. The Feast of Tabernacles. You shall keep the Feast of Tents 7 days. After that you have gathered in from your threshing floor and from your winepress. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son, and your daughter, and your male servant, and your female servant, and the Levite, and the foreigner, and the fatherless, and the widow, who are within your gates. You shall keep a feast to Yahweh your God 7 days in the place which Yahweh shall choose, because Yahweh your God will bless you in all your increase, and in all the work of your hands, and you shall be altogether joyful. 3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your God, in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tents, and they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh your God, which he has given you. Judges and Justice. You shall make judges and officers in all your gates, which Yahweh your God gives you, according to your tribes. And they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. You shall not wrest judgment. You shall not respect persons. Neither shall you take a bribe. For a bribe does blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. You shall follow that which is altogether just, that you may live, and inherit the land which Yahweh your God gives you. Forbidden forms of worship. You shall not plant for yourselves an Asherah of any kind of tree beside the altar of Yahweh your God, which you shall make for yourselves. Neither shall you set yourself up a pillar, which Yahweh your God hates.